Chairman, with your little discretion, I'd like to enter my statement for the record at this time.
Without objection.
Okay,
So
and I would like to say one thing, Mr. Chairman. This bill of mine is a very simple bill. It's the interstate sale of pelts and export of handicrafts, garments, and art made from the pelts of South Central and Southeastern Alaskan Starks of Northern Sea Otters. I will say that what concerns me most, Mr. Chairman, is I love to hear people say, we'll have to have, this is not a new problem. This has been going on for a long time, and the commission sat on their hind ends like they usually do, and the Fish and Wildlife has used a lot of force, which is not necessary, and I have documentation of that. Actually going in and taking pelts out of a subsistence killing of pelts, took them away from them, haven't given them back yet. And Mr. Well, I can tell you one thing. If you're taking over the refuge, you've got some problems with some of your personnel. I suggest respectfully that you take it around and bring them into your office and let them know that they have to be, in fact, a little more understanding about people they're associating with day to day. You have more 78 million acres of land in my state of refuge. I'm not confident you're handling them the way you should. You're beginning to be like the Park Service. Don't bother us. We're the U.S. government. When I see your people wearing black jackets and carrying pistols, how do you think that makes you feel if you're living there? And you do. How do you think it makes a person feel that lives there all their life and have some smart ass from Massachusetts come up there and tell them how they should live? I don't think that's the way to run your shop. You've been here 33 years, you know what I'm talking about. I suggest you go up there and start talking to some of the people that interface with your people every day. Mr. Chairman, I do have some questions. In a letter of March 15, 2011, the acting regional director mentions that for the past year, the service is reviewing policies related to the handicraft aspect of subsistence use exemptions to develop clear guidelines interpreting the significantly altered requirement. Now, it's been a year and a half, and what is the results of their discussion, and why does it take so long for a mutual agreement on definition of a term happen?
I don't have an answer as to why it's not done, and I'll provide that to the committee for the record. I do know that that's been a topic of consternation for many years. I did spend 8 of those 33 years in Alaska, and I have a great deal of...
When were you up there?
From 1991 until 1999.
Then I suggest you go back and then review what's going on. It's not good. I've been in support of the refuge system, but your idea is you can sit around and do nothing and not work with the people. I am not going to tolerate. You understand that?
Sir, we fully want to work with the people.
Yeah, well, that's good. Not against them, with people.
Yes, sir.
Significantly altered is not defined in regulations. Does this lead to subjective determinations by enforcement agents or whether a handicraft article is significantly altered?
We believe that we've got a very liberal interpretation of that. But, Mr. Young, I understand that it's been a source of contention, and we need to finalize those guidelines so there isn't misunderstanding.
I'm glad we understand that. I have a resolution from a number of communities in southeast Alaska pleading with the service to address the sea otter issues as it's having a devastating effect on fishery-based economies and subsistence. This is, I listened to the commission. This is not a new problem. They were transported to the southeast. They built the herd up, and they are really doing damage now. For what? There has to be a management concept. And why I introduced this bill is for a management concept. You know, if we keep waiting around and have some more discussions that we sit in our nice little chairs, there won't be anything left for any subsistence at all. This is what this is all about. And that's why I hope there's some way, I'm going to move this bill one way or the other. But I hope there's some understanding from your agency and the commission's agency to understand if we don't do something, you've destroyed other species just because they lay on their back and eat their little oysters and their little crabs and their little clams. There is no abalone anymore. They've killed them all. There is very few crabs anymore. They've killed them all. There's a massive herd of sea otters down there. They'll eventually move north and eventually move out to the northwest too. So those are the things I think your agency, and God help us, the commission ought to be considering, not talking about, considering. Let's do something now. And that's why I have to change the law, because you can't do it right now. You could do it the regulatory process if you wanted to. How much more time I got? 20 seconds. Mr. Reagan's testimony mentions using the existing waiver process. Has a waiver ever been used by the Secretary? Mr. Hurd? Either one of you? Has it ever been used?
That's not my area of expertise. I would have to check, and I will for the record, sir. Mr. Reagan may be able to answer.
Mr. Reagan, has it ever been used?
Congressman Young, I believe that there was an effort by the Falk Fur Company to try to use the waiver back in the 1970s. There have been other efforts to use related provisions, but I don't believe that there has been.
So the waiver doesn't work,
I would not say that it does not work.
but it hasn't been issued.
It has not been issued.
So it hasn't worked in 1970. See, let me see, that's 41 years. Well, that's about right for an agency. 41 years, that's about right. My time's up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the gentleman yields his time. Next up, we have...
Mr. Chairman, may I submit for the record the comments by Lena Jack, Executive Director, Alaska Sea Otter Silver Sea Line Commission, in Old Harbor, Alaska, in support of my legislation, by the way.
Without objection, so ordered. Next